I'd like to thank you for inviting me on the show. It's such an honour to be here, and I'd just like to say that when I'm not playing Xbox with my mate Thor, I really like to listen to my favourite podcast, Pop Culture Pasta. Hey, Doug! Doug! Oh, that's right, Doug's dead.
Pop Culture Pasta.
Okay, so picture it, a 12-year-old Cody.
Okay.
And the biggest band in the world has just broken up.
U2? Did they break up?
Almost.
Okay, all right.
But they break up. And there's multiple talented people within this group. And you have to take a bet on who's going to be the breakout star. And
Okay.
I bet wrong.
I'm going Bono. What? Oh, we're still not talking about U2?
Not U2
Okay.
yet.
I was confused because you said the biggest band in the world
Well,
when you were 12. Maybe it wasn't U2 anymore.
actually, they were back on the rise
Oh, were they? Okay.
because A Beautiful Day had just come out.
That wasn't that we didn't get to the point yet where they gave away that free CD,
No,
free
we're not.
album to everyone on iTunes, and everyone complained about getting a free U2 album.
You lucky jabronis.
All right, I'm sorry, I won't interrupt anymore.
I was talking about the hit band NSYNC.
Oh,
Because,
did they break up?
yeah, they did.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not going to lie.
I just didn't know if they someone went solo and they just kind of fell apart, or did they actually have a breakup point?
I'm going to say they broke up.
All right.
But the person that became famous should not have been the person that became famous.
Not JT,
Not JT.
not Justin Timberlake.
No, I had a bet that the breakout star was going to be a one JC Chazé.
Yeah. If I'm being honest, I thought JC Chazé had the brighter future than Justin Timberlake.
He was the talent of the group. I'm not going to lie.
I got to be honest. Wasn't a huge follower of NSYNC, but I did like a few of their songs, and I just thought that JC Chazé, like you, I thought he had that song. So right after they broke up, right, he had that song for Drumline. Mm-hmm. Great song. Should have been bigger than it was. I don't understand why it wasn't.
He didn't have the look.
that
Although the look that JT had early on was that of ramen noodles.
That's not nice.
That was true. Honestly, if we're going off looks, probably Chris Kirkpatrick should have been the breakout star.
Are you serious?
He had dreads.
Yeah, but what did he do? I don't remember his voice at all.
You don't need to remember his voice. He had dreads. And that's all you need to know.
JC Chazé continues to work as a songwriter and producer. He's written songs for David Archuleta, Matthew Morrison, and the Backstreet Boys.
I'm familiar with those people.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm just saying, I think JC Chazé was the talent.
Well, I mean, we can't you can't argue with Timberlake's body of work.
Now,
Well, right, yeah, I know now.
I'm just saying, I think he carried the group and then got like poo-pooed on.
I mean, Cry Me a River is still like the ultimate breakup song, even though maybe he was the bad guy, not Britney. Yeah, we'll never know for sure.
I just assume he was.
Oh, you assumed he was? Why? Why do you have it out for Timberlake so bad?
'Cause
Well, that's very descriptive. Thank you for illuminating me.
Team Britney, that's why.
All right. I'm with you, though. Can we at least agree that the guy we knew definitely it wouldn't be was Joey Fatone?
Although
He ends up hosting a game show or something. And it's like, yeah, that's about right.
he might have the best robot chicken appearance of all time, because he is Joey Fat One, and it's Enter the Fat One.
By the way, we're at the height of irony. If I'm going to sit up here at this microphone and pretend like Joey Fatone is not talented, and I'm going to say that, like, he has more talent in his giant head than I do in my whole self. And so, yeah, there's just no I don't even know why. I don't even know why I have disdain for Joey Fatone. I don't have disdain.
I don't know what Joey did to you.
I shouldn't. He just seemed like he was the awkward NSYNC guy.
So I think that knowing who all the members of NSYNC are and knowing quite a few of NSYNC songs would say they might be a guilty pleasure.
Yeah, that's what we're going to talk about today. This is the Pop Culture Pastor Podcast. You've heard Cody lead off. I didn't think we were going to go NSYNC today.
You thought U2 and Bono.
But I was ready for it. I was ready for some NSYNC talk. I can't go super deep on them because I wasn't a huge fan. But this is the podcast, and welcome. We're glad you're here. If you would, do us a favor, and I'm going to add one to the list. So pause the podcast and scroll down and give us a good rating and write us a little review. That helps us out. Also, if you follow us on the Facebook page, if you could go to the page itself, I think there's a setting where you can invite your friends to the page.
Do it.
Just invite all your friends. Just click everyone and invite.
Even your mom.
Anybody can follow us.
They can.
It's a free country. Okay, good. Maybe you did that. Maybe you didn't. Maybe you're going to tell us you did when you didn't, but that's lying. You shouldn't do that.
That's frowned upon.
Yeah. So we haven't done a lot of news segments, but man, this we got to talk about, man. This we've got to talk about because we'd already maybe hit on it a little here and there as the drama had arisen. But the Don't Worry, Darling movie at the Venice Film Festival has just hit maybe I don't know if I can think of a more entertaining 3 days on the internet in recent memory.
It is a charming little indie production.
Said nobody. Oh my gosh. Okay.
I want to be the person that leaves that review.
Oh man. I wish I could have just been like, I feel like there should have been some like documentary filmmaker following them around the last 3 days. Because this is amazing. And if I don't get a documentary on what exactly has happened, because here's the things, we're going to present some things. We don't know for sure whether any of these things are happening, whether they happened the way we saw them.
I like to think that Nick Kroll has made a documentary.
Nick Kroll's the most normal guy in that whole production.
Which is bananas. I didn't even know he was in the movie.
Oh, man. Okay. So let's just go case by case here. In case anyone's been living in a bubble. The lead up to this is that Florence Pugh, who is the main actress, apparently had a falling out with director Olivia Wilde. Okay. I don't really know the context of this. There is some guessing, but there's been this sniping in social media and in interviews. Like just, they're kind of saying pointed things. Like Florence has been unhappy with the way the movie's been marketed, like towards the more adult things in the movie. That I will not get into on this podcast. But Olivia has, in her interviewing, has like been doubling down on that.
It is her movie.
And there seems to be like this social media sniping. Okay, so there's that. This I didn't know, but I found this out today as I was doing some studying for this. Apparently, Olivia Wilde and her relationship with Harry Styles, which a lot of people out in the world say is what maybe broke up Olivia's marriage with Jason Sudeikis. Team Sudeikis.
They weren't married.
And not at the point, not anymore.
No, never.
Because she left him.
They were never married.
For Harry Styles. Oh, well, okay.
They were never married.
Well,
that's what the internet will tell you, and I am here to verbatim give you information from the internet.
All right. Well, they were together. They were in a committed relationship.
They had some...
Allegedly.
A kid or two.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay. Anyways, there are some rumors coming out that Olivia's relationship with Harry Styles was so distracting to her that Florence Pugh reportedly directed parts of the movie.
I don't know if I believe that.
Well, okay, I'm just laying it out, right? Things really came to a head a couple weeks ago, and this is the part where maybe we talked about it a little bit. And I can't remember if it was on the radio show or if it was on the pod, but Olivia publicly claimed in an interview for, was it Vanity Fair or something, that she had fired Shia LaBeouf due to his, quote, combative energy, and she wanted to protect Florence and make sure that she felt safe on the set.
How nice.
Shia was originally going to be the lead in the movie, and Olivia told Variety this, quote, "For our film, what we really needed was an energy that was incredibly supportive. Particularly with a movie like this, I knew that I was going to be asking Florence to be in a very vulnerable situations, and my priority was making her feel safe and making her feel supported." But in response, Shia sent the publication she gave the interview with, he kept receipts. And by receipts, I mean like actual video messages from Olivia and text messages.
As one does.
Where she was trying to convince him to stay, begging him, one might say.
Okay, so I'm going to give a weird scenario. Highly unlikely. But let's say he was going to leave and she was trying to get him to stay. Mm-hmm. And he said, okay, I'll stay. And then, because this is about the same time that his world comes crashing down.
Okay, and he's been fully open about this, saying he left of his own volition, and it was good that he did. And he wasn't coming back, but it was more about him, not about anything she'd done.
In my weird scenario that's very, very, very unlikely is Olivia got wind that life was going to be a living Hades for Shia, and it's like, get off my film.
Yeah, it's possible, but then that video recording that she sent to him,
again,
it was delivered,
could have been right before.
Okay, well,
there's
date timing on it.
Okay,
so it was sent to. She sent the video 2 days after he officially quit. And what she says in the video message, see, I did my homework. So she says in the video that Miss Flo needed a, quote, wake-up call, and as she begged him to come back. So maybe she thought Shia was upset with Florence, but really had nothing to do with that. Shia's been pretty open about this. Like, he had big problems.
He had huge problems.
Anyway, she calls her Miss Flo. Okay, I want you to hold on to that point. Because soon after that came out, Florence Pugh's people let go to the press that she's only going to attend the premiere at the Venice Film Festival, but not doing the junket, not doing any of the interviews, nothing, which is highly weird because this is her movie.
So
she's the lead.
I will say there are more celebrities or stars that are starting to do that. Like Jonah Hill made the point that he wasn't going to do this anymore.
Love it. I love that you're so contrarian. You're trying to defend Olivia Wilde so hard.
That Jonah Hill said he wasn't going to do the press interviews because it caused too much anxiety.
You know the scene in Naked Gun when Leslie Nielsen is standing out in front of the fireworks place that's blowing up, and he's like, "Nothing to see here. Nothing to see here." You're that guy.
I am here to be a honesty broker / detective.
Okay.
I'm trying to seek out the truth.
This is just the lead up, right? Okay.
Yes.
So then this last few days happens. And this is amazing. So ahead of the premiere, Olivia and the cast of the movie attend a press conference that Florence is not at, and that's notable. The interesting thing is you start to see a seating arrangement between the stars of the movie. Olivia is joined by Harry Styles, Chris Pine, and Gemma Chan as a moderator is asking them questions, or a moderator is letting the journalists ask questions, but they're going through a moderator. And finally, towards the end of the question and answer session, someone finally gets courageous, right? And they ask about Florence not being there. And they just ask someone to clear the air and to address if there's been a falling out, and if so, why. So in the video, Olivia looks uncomfortable, But she does her best to like praise Florence Pugh and the work she does in the movie and suggests that the reason that she's not there is because she's working on Dune Part 2.
Spoilers.
Dune Part 2, The Return of Joey. How you Dune?
Who knew there was going to be a Dune Part 2?
She hinted that Florence wasn't able to get to Venice before the premiere and that it was because of Dune. But she did thank the production of Dune for letting her get to the premiere. Now, here's the problem. Florence is posting on her Instagram. She's like posting herself wearing fancy clothes, having a drink in her hand, and in big letters, Venice, exclamation points. So she's there.
Maybe she arrived a little late and didn't want to disrupt the party.
So Olivia Wilde in the interview says like, she blames the internet. Said this is what the internet does.
It is.
Like, look, she's not wrong there. Let's be clear. We don't know anything's going on. It just seems weird. Okay, a second reporter tries to ask a quick follow-up question. So now the door's ajar, and a reporter jumps in there and starts asking her about Shia.
How dare you?
And the moderator shuts him down. Okay, before Olivia can even answer. And in the video, you can hear Olivia thanking the moderator. Thank you.
That is common courtesy.
For asking a person, I think, a reasonable question.
Not in Venice.
No, maybe not. Okay. Also, more interviews where they paired up Harry Styles and Chris Pine, which maybe rivals the Ben Affleck interview video when he was touring around for Justice League with the group. Because Harry Styles is asked what it's like to be in a movie. And he starts going on he says, quote, "My favorite thing about the movie is like, it feels like a movie." and you can see Chris Pine. I think one tweet said you can see his soul leaving his body.
You could.
Because Harry's answer is so odd and weird. And you can tell that Chris Pine's having all the thoughts. And again, all we get to see is his reaction, and note that there is like a reaction in his non-reaction. I was just impressed that he kept a straight face through the answer, because the answer was, whew.
Well, dare I say, Chris Pine is Hollywood royalty, and he's been brought up in the culture of theatre, as the kids say.
Well, the great thing about Chris Pine is he's like the innocent guy here. And he gets caught up in this, and he's not done getting caught up in it. All right. If all of the last few days was about just that one video of him in the interview, though, it would have been worth it. It would have been amazing. But that's not all. Okay.
Okay.
So then the night of the premiere comes, and everyone shows up. But before that, Florence's stylist shared a series of photos on Instagram.
As one does.
Florence getting ready, and makes a reference to her caption just says Miss Flo.
I like to think that is just a colloquial nickname that we have given Florence in the industry.
I don't know, man. I don't know. There's all sorts of interesting things they said in these little interviews they do on the red carpet. I'm not going to get into that. You can look them up if you want.
Do it.
Those are less interesting to me, because once they meet on the red carpet, the video, so Nick Kroll, Gemma Chan, Florence Pugh, they're all they're hugging. They look super happy to see each other.
Nick Kroll and Chris are taking photos of Florence.
They're all hamming it up and taking photos. This is amazing. And then Harry Styles and Olivia Wilde showed up, and it's like someone dumped water. It's like the cops showed up at the high school party. Everyone's like,
Nothing to see here.
It's like your two kids sitting in the back seat on a long vacation. Quit touching me. Everyone's got that face. And they all look miserable except for Olivia Wilde, who is smiling in this picture.
Who radiates beauty.
But again, the order that they're posed in the picture is interesting because there's Nick, there's Florence, separated from Olivia Wilde by Chris Pine, and then Olivia is separated from Harry Styles by someone else. Now, I wouldn't have caught this, but in the video, someone tries to move Harry Styles next to Olivia for pictures, and he's having none of it. So I think their relationship is over from the body language we're looking at. Like, he's not having it. He doesn't want anything to do with Olivia.
I presumed. Now, this was my presumption.
Now,
that they were told PR style, you guys need to cool it off during all the publicity and promotion for this film because you guys have overshadowed your product.
It would be interesting to like talk to publicists, to get like the behind, because you're right. You could be right. You might have just a bunch of publicists telling their people different things. Like, you should be close to this person. Don't get close to this person. And I could see that. I could see a publicist for the movie company saying, hey, you guys don't be near each other.
Oh, yeah.
But it just looks weird, okay? But this is not the weirdest part, okay? We're getting to the weirdest part, all right? Geez. At the premiere, again, sitting in this particular way where Harry and Olivia are separated and Florence and Olivia are separated. They keep sitting, making sure there are people in between those three. Okay? Which, that can't be an accident.
You gotta leave space for Jesus.
That's true. Okay, so Chris Pine is in between Olivia Wilde and Harry Styles at the premiere. Okay? And then something really weird happens. Something that I still don't think we've quite figured out.
I definitely haven't figured it out yet.
When I first saw this video, I was just befuddled. I don't know what I'm looking at, but what it appears to be happen is it appears that Harry Styles spits in the general direction of Chris Pine, who then reacts like a dude who got spit on.
Allegedly.
But in a very like Chris Pine cool sort of way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like, look, you could examine that video 1,000 times and people probably have.
I'm in the hundreds. I know that.
Okay. So Chris Pine looks like insulted kind of at first, like, or I can't believe you just did that. But then like he's cool as the other side of the pillow, as Sports Center used to say.
Oh, yeah. And
just kind of start smiling again and blah, blah, blah. Okay. Now here's the part this is what blows me away. The internet goes crazy. This goes viral quick. Everyone has the same conclusion that I just did, that he spit on him.
Except for a couple of sleuths out there that said, oh, he misplaced his sunglasses and then just found them. Although he had them in his hand.
And contrarian Cody.
No, well,
who's adamantly telling me before we started recording that he
did not spit. I don't know what happened. My guess is he heard something behind him and he's like, what? And then he kind of chuckles it off.
Okay. Yeah. Some people were being like, it was all about his sunglasses, but then
he had the sunglasses in his hand right before Harry gets into the shot. So I don't think he forgot where the sunglasses are unless he's impaired.
Yeah. It doesn't quite work, that theory. But here's the thing. At the end of the day, most things are what they look like. But okay, I don't even want to get into that because look, we don't know. Does it look like he spits on him? Kind of.
He makes a weird motion with his mouth that would look like a spitting motion.
And for me, it's the reaction Chris Pine has. Because for me, like I'm a dude who's been spit on by another dude.
We would have been having fisticuffs.
Yeah, first of all, most of the time, at least places where I'm from, you were throwing hands. But in public, he reacts like I feel like someone would react if they got spit on and they didn't want to make a scene.
Again, Chris Pine is Hollywood royalty.
Yeah, no matter what happens with all this, Chris Pine stock went up here. Like everyone loves Chris Pine. Anyways, this is what blows my mind about all of this, because the morning after, was it Harry's publicist or Chris Pine's publicist?
Both have come out now.
So both of them put out statements that say, don't be ridiculous. Harry Styles didn't spit on him. And that was it. That was basically the statement. Okay. What was crazy was all the quote unquote journalist out, companies. Like, I can't tell you how many articles I saw that the headline was, no, Harry Styles did not spit on Chris Pine. And then the proof they had in the article, because that's a declarative statement.
It is a declarative statement.
Most of the internet thinks that he spit on him. So I read that headline and I'm like, oh, okay, well then we must have some real evidence here. No, it was just a publicist statement. Like, look, if I spit in Cody's face right now and I paid money to a publicist, I would expect them to put out a statement that says I didn't spit on him. That's what they do.
It is what they do. I just want to know if some substances were involved and that's why Chris Pine's given like a weird look just randomly, then say, I was a little under the influence during the time and Harry literally did nothing to me, or Harry called me a dirty, rotten scoundrel, and that's why I'm making that face. I don't know. I need Chris Pine to actually release a statement, like go on The View. I don't know.
So, as the movie starts, Chris Pine reportedly put his sunglasses on.
Because he was going to take a siesta.
Apparently not really caring about watching the movie, or maybe he has an opinion of it already.
I do know there are some actors and thespians that don't like to watch themselves.
Yeah.
Johnny Depp was one of those.
Gosh, I just love you for your contrarianism. It's so amazing.
Or my knowledge.
There's lots of video where Florence Pugh just like refuses to make eye contact with Olivia Wilde. So that, of all the things going on, that one seems the most real, for sure. That there's something going on between
There's some
those
friction.
But the spitting thing was just amazing. More in the journalist reaction of the publicist statement. That blew my mind, because that is our journalism, a microcosm of our journalism situation right now. Like, oh, the publicist said, well, let's forget this. My grandma said, where there's smoke, there's fire, Cody.
I would have worded it, publicist says this, but it contradicts video. But again, I don't see spittle. That's my issue.
It is, you can't see, right. You can't see a loogie or anything. You can't see it. It's not the best video.
Maybe Harry had... No, I don't want to joke around with COVID stuff. Because I was going to say, like, maybe he was faking breathing in this direction to do that. But we don't joke about COVID. That was a serious thing.
So here's the deal. Here's the deal with all of this. We don't know if Harry spit on Chris. It looked weird. But here's the thing. I'm going to reserve judgment until Chris Pine says something, because that's what's absent. So when I saw the headline that said, no, Harry Styles did not spit on Chris Pine, what I expected to read in the article was, oh, Chris Pine must have said something, because he's the one dude who, if he spoke up and said, hey, this is ridiculous, he didn't spit on me, it was a joke, it was an inside joke, something, whatever. He could say anything to diffuse the whole situation.
Oh, yeah.
The one person that could say one or two sentences and diffuse the whole situation is Chris Pine, and I find the silence deafening.
His publicist spoke.
I don't care, because if I'm a publicist and my client says, oh, it was ridiculous, it was a misunderstanding, then as his publicist, I say, okay, you need to calm the noise because we want the movie to reign. So just do a 1-minute video on Instagram saying, hey, it was just an inside joke. He didn't spit on me. He could do that.
He could.
And as his publicist, that's what I tell him to do. But he's not doing that, is he?
Because he doesn't have you as a PR person.
Because he got spit on. Oh, okay.
All I know is this overshadowed the AEW drama, and that was real drama.
This is overshadowing everything. I'm not gonna lie, I was here for it. I was dutifully looking through all the tweets as they were happening, and it was amazing. But man, I don't know. I really want to get a publicist on this show to interview them, but it has to be a publicist like after they retire, because they're not going to say anything while they're in the middle of their career, because that could damage it. But I want like an aging publicist who can tell me stories. That's what I want. Not specifics. I don't want specifics. I don't want gossip. I just want to hear like what their job is like. I want to know. I want a movie or a documentary made about the life of a Hollywood publicist. That's what I want. Because that would be amazing. That would be dynamite. All right. We've talked long enough about this. It's time for us to go to our main thing. We're going to talk guilty pleasures. But first, I need to talk to Sam. Cody, to the Geek Phone!
The Geek Phone.
All right, here we are. We are on the Geek Phone. The Geek Phone is in effect. And now, because I am on the Geek Phone, everybody is on the Geek Phone. That's how podcasts work, Sam. Did you know that?
Well, I would suppose it would.
The Geek Phone is highly mysterious technology. It's not out there yet, but we understand it just enough to use it. Sam, how's it going, buddy?
Oh, it's been going great, my friend. I have been in the process of editing the novel that will soon be published for me, and I am trying to also become involved in a bit of activism here and there.
Very good. Very good. It's important to stand up for what we think is right, Sam.
Indeed, it is.
We are talking about today guilty pleasures. And before we get into it, I wanted to kind of pick your brain. How would you define a guilty pleasure?
Well, a guilty pleasure is a film that is either commercially and or critically laudedly bad, just bombed at the box office, or is critically panned, or is just awful in general. And yet there is something about it people can't help but gravitate towards. People enjoy, people love, people just enjoy without any exceptions. The Room is an excellent example of this. It's bad, but it's good. Sort of so bad it's good, or it's bad, but it has something good in it.
Yeah. So you specifically mentioned film, and that's like, yeah, it's a movie that you don't like to tell people that you enjoy. We love to tell people the movies we love that we know are respected films. Like it doesn't take me anything. It doesn't cause me any embarrassment to say, I think Shawshank Redemption is one of my favorite films of all time. No one's going to look at me and say, you're nuts. Right.
Right.
But these are different. This is like if I said, well, I really like basketball.
Basketball? Well,
yeah.
I think it was meant to be bad. It was a parody film, but I loved it. It's by, of course, Matt Stone and Trey Parker, who would later on become the South Park duo.
You got it. And you were right. It was made to be kind of that dumb kind of naked gun airplane type comedy. It just works for me.
Yes, it works for me as well. Well, it works for me as well.
What are some movies that you enjoy that most people don't? Something you would be like, because you are our resident film expert. And so we just expect Sam to be, you're a fan of the greats, but which ones weren't so great, but you still kind of like them?
Well, one of them would be the Flintstones film, the live action Flintstones.
Yes.
Would obviously be one. And I like it because, well, first of all, John Goodman, you could tell that he was a first choice. You could tell that everyone in the casting room just said John Goodman as Fred Flintstone. And he and Rick Moranis just nailed it as them.
Yeah, is that one of Rick Moranis' last movies that he did?
Well, not his last movie, one of his last movies, but like in between his fame, sort of, so to speak.
Yeah. Because he took all that, he's taken all that time off. He just kind of stopped.
Yeah, he just kind of lived an ordinary life, so to speak.
Yeah. So Flintstones, yeah, John Goodman can do no wrong in my eyes.
Yes. Plus, I loved the set design for it. The painstaking process that it took to make it, including the animatronics, which I think personally were very expertly done by none other than the Jim Henson Company who worked on it. Another film I enjoyed was Scooby-Doo, the live action one, 2002.
Okay. Yeah.
It's one of those films that I will be proud to say that I enjoy. My all-time favorite guilty pleasure would have to be that one because it's just fun to watch. It's just enjoyable for all it is, for all its ups and downs. Now, Matthew Lillard,
Yes,
in the one as Shaggy, he just was unexpectedly amazing as Shaggy. It's like he nailed it.
we have a theory here at Pop Culture Pastor, because I think we've talked about this before, but I think we think that Matthew Lillard is one of the most underrated actors of this generation.
Oh, I agree. I saw him in other films he was in, and he is just amazing as it. He played such a frightening villain in Scream.
Mm-hmm. I don't recall him ever not liking him in a movie. Even he's in there's a show out there on Netflix called it's about a bunch of women, middle-aged women who gang up and start committing crimes, basically. But he's one of the husbands who's kind of jilted in that show, and he plays it great.
Oh yes, he does. He definitely does. But I think it's interesting. It's interesting. Now that you mention it, I actually been working on this idea of a podcast called Bad Movies with Something Good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Bad movies with good performances, bad movies with good special effects, bad movies with good stories, bad movies with good cinematography, directing, animation, whatever. But because there are those bad movies that you know are bad, but there's something about them that you can't help but applaud for.
Yeah, for instance, you're right, because basketball critically was panned. But and we've talked about this on the pod before too, Sam, that South Park may not be our cup of tea. It may be a little bit over the line for us in vulgarity, but I can't ignore that those guys are brilliant comedically.
Yes,
and even though that comedy in basketball is meant to be kind of dumb, there's still some pretty genius little bits in there.
Yes, there's some genius humor in it. And speaking of which, I think one example of a man who is a master of guilty pleasure films is Adam Sandler. Oh yeah, so to speak. I mean, he has had the number of bad movies that he has probably made as a whole are probably worth putting up in a library, putting up a collection of bad Adam Sandler movies. And yet, there are humorous moments that are just gut-bustingly funny.
Now, Sam, I gotta ask, are you doing dishes right now?
Doing what?
Are you doing dishes?
Oh, well, yes.
I listen, I love that you're multitasking. That's amazing. Adam Sandler, for sure. Like, I don't think of them as guilty pleasures because I was in that generation where like Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore like hit us and were amazing. But I've noticed that in the following generations, they look at you and they're like, "You think this is funny?" They're like,
"Yes, but
you don't like Happy Gilmore?"
I think his work is fun. I just think it's hilarious, his work. I think like, even in his bad movies, there are moments where you can't help but fall on the floor laughing.
Oh, yeah.
And the truth is, you can tell he's having fun when he's making his work. Because, whatever happened to having fun when making films, why does it always have to be serious when you make a movie? Why can't it just be something fun?
Yeah. He's pretty much on record as saying that the Grown Ups movies 1 and 2 were essentially just so him and his buddies could hang out while they were working.
Yeah, it's just called having fun.
Yeah.
It's fun, and to make it even better, there's also Mike Myers as well. Now that he's made his share of bad movies, but yet there are moments that people fall on the floor laughing. People laugh and just can't help but bust a gut when they laugh, and there are moments where the jokes they make are just genius in so many ways.
There's so many layers.
So back to Scooby-Doo.
Oh yeah,
so back to Scooby-Doo. Matthew Lillard's performance as Shaggy is frighteningly good, actually. It's like he popped right out of the cartoon and performed in a way. Plus, I'm glad that they acknowledged that Scrappy was a terrible idea in the film. They had managed that they admitted, yes, we admit Scrappy was terrible. We are not doing that again. And we are even going as far as making him a villain. We are not going to do this character again. And we are sorry for that.
Scrappy
That's
Doo.
what I enjoy. That's what I enjoy about. That's what one of two things that I really enjoy about that film. Also, another example, I've seen clips of it, but Hank Azaria's performance as Gargamel in The Smurfs was actually surprisingly good. Like, he nailed it as that character.
Hank Azaria is a talented dude. That dude's talented.
He's one of the few actors I can think of that is both talented, both in voice and in body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he had a recurring guest role on Friends as one of Phoebe's long lost boyfriends that would occasionally show up. He was hilarious.
Yes, he was. He is hilarious, and people and every role he's been in, even the bad movies, he just steals the show with every scene he's in. He absorbs into his characters and really gives it all his all.
Now, in the Scooby-Doo movie, Sam, did the Harlem Globetrotters show up in the movie?
No, I don't think they did show up.
Because they should have.
They did not.
Because they would occasionally show up on the cartoon, and those were like my favorite episodes.
Yes. I admit I'd like to. It's funny. It's funny you say that. There was a funny skit on The Simpsons where someone said, "Let me get this straight. You took all the money you earned and betted against the Harlem Globetrotters? I thought the Generals were a surefire win."
They're surefire. It's funny, Sam, because like it would have been hilarious in the movie because it never was explained in the cartoons. They just show up at some abandoned theme park in the Harlem, and like Metal Lark Lemon happened to be there. Hey, Curly Neal, why don't you come help us solve this mystery while dribbling a basketball?
Yes, it would have been funny if they sent if there was a heavenly light and they just showed up out of nowhere. It's like, Harlem Globetrotters, what are you doing here? We're here to help you. We're here to help you guys.
I wouldn't have been surprised if the Harlem Globetrotters were handed down straight from God for our entertainment. That's just wholesome entertainment right there.
Yes, it is. And also it's very important to note that guilty pleasures aren't just limited to films. There are also TV shows that are just terrible. Just terrible. But I mean, the Kardashians are obviously the number one guilty pleasure show to watch, probably.
Yeah. Let me tell you something. I have an affinity and love for Alf, the 80s sitcom, but that is not watchable anymore. You can't go back and watch that. It's terrible.
Yeah,
but I just love it anyway.
Cringy. Anyone got cat today? Today's special, kitten with a slice of tabby on the side.
I tried to watch it on Hulu with my kids here a while back, and we couldn't make it past episode 2. It is not good. But I still love them.
Too many bad puns.
Yeah. Well, do you have any more
gimmicky?
Guilty pleasures you'd like to list off before we say goodbye?
Well, let me see. I'd say a lot. There are a few Adam Sandler films that are just bad altogether, but are still fun to watch. Like Little Nicky's a good one, which is bad, but it's still fun and entertaining to go through and enjoy. Plus, there's also a few ones of Robin Williams in his later work, God rest his soul, that were good, but yet he still made the most of it with his humor.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any guilty pleasure music? Like, are you a Swiftie?
Well, sometimes I listen to Hamster Dance. A lot of times, that song has some bops. Yeah, I sometimes search online for best guilty pleasure songs, and I'm like, oh, this is good, this is good, this is good. And people would think, are you insane that you listen to Hamster Dance sometimes? It's like, yes, I listen to Hamster Dance, and I am not ashamed to admit it.
Sam, it is always great talking to you. I think I'm going to be chuckling all week when I think about you doing dishes while talking to me and also saying the word bops. That's like the kids say it, though. You're one of the kids, you know?
What do you mean one of the kids?
Well, you're younger than me, so you know what I'm saying? Like, it's all relative.
Yes. Well, I like to multitask sometimes.
Yeah. Hey, no worries. I enjoy our conversations as always, Sam. But we got to go. We got to get back to the pod, and we'll talk to you next week. Okay, buddy?
All right. Same here. You have a good one.
We'll see you later. All right. We are back in the studio here. Off the geek phone. It's always a joy to talk to Sam. I can't believe Sam was doing dishes while he was talking to me.
Housework does not do itself, Dave.
That is true. That is very true. Welcome back. And it's time for us to talk about, while we're here, you got to hear us talk a little bit about it with Sam as we talked about some of our guilty pleasures. I think, Cody, first...
We need a definition for
yeah,
this.
so I asked Sam what his definition was. Let me ask you, what do you consider a guilty pleasure? Because I think I have two definitions.
Okay, because I asked my wife about this, and she had a different definition than I did.
Mm-hmm.
So for my wife, it was something that, like, you just intake and you'll keep on intaking it over and over again. Like a movie you'll watch 6 or 7 times in a very short span, which is insane. Don't do that.
I don't think that's descriptive enough, though. It's got to
It's
be
not,
embarrassing to
but
you in some way.
For me, it was something that I would not admit, like, openly in public readily. Like, you'd have to be a good friend of mine for me to tell you, I honestly thought Savage Garden was the best band of the late 90s.
Yeah, okay, so this is twofold, and I think you touch on both of them. One, a guilty pleasure to me is something that you don't admit to your circle, your community, because it would bring you embarrassment, right?
Yeah, you got to be toit.
Yeah. So, like, that's the first definition. I think the second definition, or the one you combine with it a little bit, is it's something that's been panned, something that has been critically not received well, but you like it anyways. You know it's trash,
Morbius,
but you love it. Yeah. So someone out there because movies and entertainment is subjective, not objective. There's someone out there who thinks Morbius is their favorite movie ever.
They're subjectively and objectively wrong.
I mean, there are people that like the DCEU movies. I know, it's shocking.
They're not bad. I used one in a sermon illustration.
There's people who think that Zack Snyder cut of Justice League is the best superhero movie ever made. God bless their souls.
Okay, I'm not going that far. That's not even the best Zack Snyder movie.
But there's
made.
people out there that think that. You do admit that.
I am aware of people that think that way.
That's insane. It's absolutely insane. It was probably the best of that little run there for sure, though. I mean, it's certainly better than Joss Whedon's version.
I will say it might have been one of my favorite things that came out during the pandemic, because it comes out during that time.
It was a nice time waster for sure.
Like, it goes The Last Dance, Tiger King, and then Zack Snyder cut.
Dude, did The Last Dance and Tiger King just save us during the pandemic?
Well, it saved me. I don't know about the rest of you all.
Okay, so I don't know what you did, but I just kind of like mentally vomited just some things I thought of in the categories of music, TV, movies, and games. And just some things that I qualified as guilty pleasures. I talked about one of them with Sam, and that was the movie Basketball, which I've talked a little bit about before on the pod. Just that it was a critically not well received movie. It was panned critically. And I just, like, it's a dumb comedy, but it's one of those that I think the genius of Matt Stone and Trey Parker kind of comes out a little bit in spots. But what category do you want to start with here, Cody?
Yeah, you just tell me a category to start off with, and I will go.
Well, let's go with music.
Okay.
Are you a big Savage Garden fan?
So, in the late 90s, during the time of NSYNC and Backstreet Boys, like, taking over most of the airwaves that Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera had not taken over. Savage Garden is a very underappreciated band of that time. And literally, like, you go through their CDs, because it was CDs back then, and you're like, wow, these are good.
Now,
Chicken Cherry Cola.
I was gonna say, okay, I was trying to place what one of their songs was, but that was ooh, what in the hand of sunny now, and y'all only find out.
That's not how that goes.
Oh, okay, no,
but that is the
Chicken
beat.
Cherry Cola.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I thought that was them.
I Want You is the name of that song.
I don't
by the
know
way.
what you're talking about. I sounded just like him. Just like him.
Truly, Madly, Deeply, To the Moon and Back. I Knew I Loved You Before I Met You. I mean, there's so many hits.
Okay.
All the hits. They are the best thing to come out of Australia besides Chris Hemsworth.
I don't remember hating that at all. Also, vicious Paul Hogan slander.
And Nicole Kidman.
And Steve Irwin. The Crocodile Hunter. How dare you, sir?
With exception to those that have gone on to their heavenly
Paul
reward.
Hogan is still very much alive. Even though I said he was dead last week. Yeah, so music in the 90s is also the realm of my first guilty pleasure. And this is more of this causes me embarrassment in my circle because I'm a pastor now. I'm in ministry. But I wasn't a Christian back then. And I really loved gangsta rap.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Sixpence None the Richer.
No, I really loved gangsta rap. And looking back now, I'm not really sure why. I still appreciate rap. I like rap. But I tried. So a couple months ago, I was driving a good distance, and I tried to listen to the edited version of Tupac's greatest hits on Spotify.
That's a waste of time.
It was very cringy. It was very cringy for me because I kept thinking like I'd hear things that I used to like, but I couldn't get past like what he's saying. And I'm just like, and Tupac is not, I mean, he's not the worst.
Yeah.
Some of the Death Row stuff, Ice Cube, NWA, some of that's way worse.
Because I would say, like, the thing with Tupac is there was a message behind a lot of his songs.
Yeah, he's way more poetic than a lot of those guys.
And so...
But it was still, like, it came off super cringy to me now. It was super cringy.
I wouldn't judge you on that. You can have that one out in the open.
I was judging myself. I was just like, oh, this is rough, man.
That would be the Spirit convicting.
Like,
you.
I wouldn't want my daughters to know I listened to that. Honestly, I wouldn't want my daughter to pick up, let's say, The Chronic by Dr. Dre and think, oh, my dad really loved this in his formative years. Like, I wouldn't want that. It was rough. It was rough. I had to look inside myself a little bit. I thought I was cool. I thought I was hardcore, like I was from the streets of Topeka.
A weird thought about this, and just because you brought up like you wouldn't want your daughter to think this is what my dad was about in his formative years, but I officiated / attended a funeral where they had like the most random music selection ever. And like,
oh no, tell me it was a Tupac song.
No, it was country.
Oh,
like Suds in the Bucket and Some Beach.
Funerals are weird like that.
Oh yeah. And like, I mean, these were just like really random out there songs, but they're like, this is what mom would have wanted. And I'm like, well, if that's what mom would have wanted.
Like, hey, man, if someone plays Broken Wings by Tupac at my funeral, you're out of the will. Is that the name of it? That's the song he samples. I can't even remember the name of the song. It's got a different name.
So you're saying I cannot play Tupac at your funeral?
I mean, Only if it's Dear Mama.
Okay.
Because he doesn't curse in that one. Because it was a song for his mama. And that would make my mama feel good, I think. Well, I mean, assuming I died before her, I would want that. I could actually see a scenario where, like, yeah, play Dear Mama and make my mom not cry so hard.
Okay.
There's a possibility to make her cry more because Tupac's really sentimental in that one.
He is.
Do you have any more music guilty pleasures?
So I would go with what is her name? She is right there.
Crystal Gale.
No. The lady that
Dolly Parton.
sings Sail Away.
Sail Away? Like Sticks?
No,
not.
the Orinoco Flow, as the kids call it.
Oh, it's something new?
No. Oh my goodness. Only in Time is another one of her hits. Come on, Dave.
Only in Time. I'm lost here. I just can't think of, dude, it's the COVID. I told you, I can't. I got the brain fog, man. My memory's not so good. I got to take notes for everything now. And you
Enya is the name of the artist I am trying to think of because she's all up in your face.
Oh, is she? I mean, you go from gangster rap to Enya. It's pretty much the same.
It is. I mean, I'm not embarrassed by my infatuation or love of Busta Rhymes raps. I'm not embarrassed. So, like, you ask me, I'll say yeah. But if you ask me about Enya, like, we have to have had some moments and then we can bust out in her hits.
So I wouldn't classify Busta as gangster rap. So he's from that East Coast tribe called Quest School. And that's definitely not gangster rap.
Yeah, I'm just saying I'm not ashamed of my appreciation of Busta Rhymes.
Yeah, I'm not either. Good for him. Also, Enya? Really? That put me to sleep.
I mean, I did listen to NSYNC and Backstreet and Britney and Christina, but it's like my formative years.
Okay, that was getting a little embarrassing. But I
can sing quite a few Britney songs.
I had Paula Abdul's cassette tape straight up.
That's classic.
Yeah. I also I liked Disney soundtracks. We got into a little bit of that a couple weeks ago.
Mulan, best use of Donny Osmond ever.
No, I was too old for that. But I definitely purchased Beauty and the Beast, Little Mermaid, Aladdin. I had all those soundtracks, and I sang along to them.
Like Mulan's like 2 years after.
I was too old by then. The moment was gone. Also, in my adult years, The Wicked, the Broadway musical, that soundtrack, I kind of dug that for a while. And also in high school, this one hardly qualifies as a guilty pleasure in the middle of it. But now I wouldn't share this usually. I was really into Garth Brooks, like a lot of people were. But now when you look, like even when you see like the CD covers of him wearing like the really bright colored cowboy shirt.
He's an American hero is what you're about to say.
I mean, clearly he's still out there just winning.
Raking in all the dough.
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't play to not full venues.
I thought you were going to say Madonna.
Oh no, but Madonna, there's a lot of her songs I liked. I don't think that's weird though. That's not a guilty pleasure.
Would you admit openly to liking Just Like a Prayer?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Great song.
Okay, I
Great
was just
song.
wondering because we had
Dave Rimble, do solemnly swear that living Just Like a Prayer is a great song. Also, Living on a Prayer by Bon Jovi, which I almost said. It's a great song.
Because like you felt conviction about the gangsta rap of the West Coast, and then like,
Well, wait.
I know the music video.
Are you implying what's the message of that song? What's the message? Is it appropriate for us to talk about?
Nope.
I'm missing something. I didn't know what the message was. I just like the song.
I'll let you go back and listen to it.
We're just, hey, like we talked about this a couple of weeks ago with, songs and how like Bruce Springsteen, right? You don't get to pick. The artist doesn't really get to pick how it's received.
Madonna does.
I don't want to know. I don't want to know what it was really about because I know Madonna. Let's go to video games.
Okay.
Do you have any guilty pleasure in the realm of video games?
So a video game that I really enjoyed playing, and it was last year that I came across this, and it's really weird and out there, and it was on the Xbox Live, like free gameplay, whatever.
The Game Pass?
Game Pass, yeah. River City Girls.
Oh,
It's the name of it.
That sounds bad. What is that?
So one of my friends from college, I go out to visit him, and he's like, let's play some video games. And like, we couldn't decide on what to play. And he's like, this one has like a very high rating. And so it's like this 2D graphics, but basically you are two anime girls
Okay.
whose
Didn't get
boyfriends
better.
get kidnapped.
Oh, okay. Weird.
And you are trying to find them. And like the whole city's against you.
I knew it.
And you gotta kick butt and take names.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And
I'm in.
they have like all the copyright infringement things out there. Like there's these Arnold Schwarzenegger looking dudes that spit out bombs. There's like these karate tigers that come out of nowhere.
So is this like Double Dragon-esque?
Kinda.
It's like a side scroller?
Yeah, it is.
Very nice.
It is bananas.
All right.
And like very addicting because we only made it halfway through the game. And then I was like, oh, it's time to go.
Can you do a little up, up, down, down, BA, select start on it or left, right, BA, start?
I don't think that
Work?
I don't think that works.
So I play this game called Hearthstone. I played it for a few years. It's from the like World of Warcraft family, but it's like a card game.
I have seen you play it.
Yeah. And it's really weird. I don't like to admit it to people. Like my wife makes fun of me. And I don't like to admit it to people because it seems childish to me to play a game that much. But I realized that when I was playing it, I'm not really into it. It just occupies my mind. So I've told you, I think I'm a little ADD. And I like that game because it's a game of patterns. So strategy is often based on patterns, and you have reactions to certain plays made by your opponent. And I think it kind of relaxes my brain to just kind of focus on that and basically zone out into it.
You
and
are
just react.
Bobby Fischer.
Maybe. I don't know. There's probably some psychological someone listening to this right now is gonna comment on the post and be like, "Oh, Dave, yeah, this is a thing."
I'm going with you are a secret prodigy of this game.
The other game that I think is a guilty pleasure was Farmville.
Oh, that was a big deal back
That was a
in the
big
day.
deal. That was like how Facebook got a lot of people into Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
And I just wanted to bring it up because I didn't play it.
I definitely did.
I did. I'm just lying.
Pokemon
I wasn't
Go,
into it nearly as much as my mom was, though.
Pokemon Go was a big deal for me. And like each summer becomes a big deal for me again because like doing case management with kids and being out in the community and going on walking paths. One of the things that some of my kids like to do is like catch Pokemon. And so like I'll bring the game out and we'll start doing it. But
I tried it. I didn't understand it.
you got to catch them all, Dave.
I just didn't understand what the point was.
To catch them all, Dave.
Yeah, but then there were like all these gyms and they were fighting
Yeah.
and you were like trying to get territory. I don't know. I didn't understand.
Because winners win.
It's not worth winning if you can't win big.
Yeah.
That's what I learned from the Mighty Ducks. Okay, TV, guilty pleasures TV. There's the obvious ones that we've talked about a lot. For
Yeah.
me. Pro wrestling is definitely up there.
What?
Not among guys, but girls tend to laugh at that. It's not something you admit to the girl folk.
I left my house to come here tonight, and I had AEW on because I wanted to see the fallout of what happened from the pay-per-view Sunday. And Leah's like, why are we watching this? Do I have to keep this on? Like, what are you doing to me? And I'm like, I'm trying to find out if they're firing people.
At least your wife says something. I'm pretty sure when my wife has walked through the living room when I'm watching old WCW, she like literally rolls her eyes. Doesn't say a word. Like I'm the nerdiest nerd ever. But yeah, we've talked plenty about that. The other one for me was Smallville.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It just hits in a sweet spot at that time for a lot of guys my age.
I missed the boat.
Yeah. And to admit that you were a big Smallville guy now, it's again, maybe in your circle, it's okay. But yeah, my wife doesn't get that one either.
I'm kind of with you, Danielle.
I tried to make her watch it with me, and we got like halfway through season 1, and I think she was just humoring me.
Make her listen to the podcast, then watch.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about some new stuff though. Do you got one or do you want me to go first?
I have a whole genre
of
TV that I weirdly like in my mind. I don't like this genre. And yet there's quite a few shows that I have found myself liking within this genre. It's the supernatural vampire stuff.
Oh, really?
So
I'm totally judging you.
As you should be.
No, I'm kidding.
True Blood. If you got rid of all the HBO-ness of it, I think it would be a phenomenal show. That there's some great storylines early on. And then the only reason I stay late in the series is because you have Alexander Skarsgård, his character Eric Northman starts like making like huge gains as a character, and Lafayette is a good character. Otherwise, Sookie and Vampire Bill get annoying by that point, and you can get rid of them both.
I will say the concept of that story is a very good concept. It's interesting.
Oh yeah,
and then it gets like people try to copy it to oblivion after that show makes it big.
And then so two more. One, which is an old series that isn't on anymore, Lost Girl, which was on Sci-Fi, and it was about Fae. A whole bunch of different type of supernaturals, and it followed primarily a succubus.
Oh my!
Yeah, I'm going all out on this supernatural stuff,
and that was the last podcast where Cody was a pastor.
Exactly. And then the one that's new, that's still current, What We Do in the Shadows.
See, I don't know what that one is.
Okay,
that's a vampire one as well?
It's on FX, and it was created by and based off a movie that starred Jermaine from Flight of the Conchords and Taika Waititi.
Oh, okay.
So they made it into a TV series, and they occasionally make like brief cameos. It's rare, but it's hilarious. Just some of the sayings from it, like, really get me rolling. Like, I'll be dying laughing at it. But it follows 4 vampires and one of their familials, who is a human that takes care of their needs during the daytime, like does their bidding. And so, yeah, it's a great show. Has a ton of funny people, comedians in it.
Yeah.
But inappropriate. So,
well, yeah. So for me, like you mentioned, True Blood. For me, the one I don't like to admit to my fellow church people that I watched was Game of Thrones. Because again, the HBO-ness of it all.
Oh yeah. HBO likes to HBO it up.
Yeah, because I was a fan of the books, so I really was interested in the show. And then the first few seasons were pretty well done. I thought all the actors they got, the choices they made on who to cast, they all turned out great. And so I did enjoy the show. But as we've stated before, once it gets into the territory where George R.R. Martin hadn't made it to yet, it kind of loses steam for me.
And by the time they put Starbucks cups in,
yeah. By the time it's over, I'm afraid to admit I watched it through the final episode because it was just not good anymore.
ew.
Although, and it's kept me from the new one. I haven't watched any of the new one yet, although I'm hearing good things.
Literally, my friend Scotty, friend of the show that hasn't been on the podcast yet, has kept asking me, "Have you watched this yet?" And I'm like, "No, not yet."
I'm watching Rings of Power though.
I am, and I'm not ashamed to admit that.
No, not at all. I think I've been loving it.
I do have one more show.
Okay, go ahead, and then I'll list off mine.
This show, so if you really want to draw me in, I think you have to have someone that over articulates their words and has a unique lexicon, because that's something that What We Do in the Shadows does with Laszlo. And then this show does it with Moira Rose. I'll call it Schlitz Creek because the name sounds like a curse word, but there's a C in it.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed that show.
It's a great
and
show.
instantly. And I instantly fell in love with the character of Moira Rose because she was just so over the top ridiculous.
Like two baby crows.
And Leah was literally like, "This is the most annoying person ever." And then by the end of the show, she's like, "Okay, I kind of get it." And then, like, after rewatching it 7 times, she now loves Moira Rose.
I love every character on that show. It's a great show. Wonderful show. Yeah.
Roland and Jocelyn.
Yeah, I dig it. Okay, so I've got 4 that I just kind of immediately came to my mind. If you'd asked a young kid Dave, what cartoons he liked, the ones he would have admitted to were like, oh, Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, and He-Man, and G.I. Joe, and Transformers.
Please say Care Bears is making an appearance.
No, the one he wouldn't have admitted to that he would still sit down and watch today is Muppet Babies.
Oh, I'd admit to that.
Yeah, but you weren't an 80s kid.
I was born in the 80s, sir. Best 8 months of my life.
It was a different time. But I would still sit down and watch the old Muppet Babies today. Great. Not that new thing. That's junk.
Most Muppets things and Sesame Street, I'm here for.
Yeah. Muppet Babies was great though, because they were all like in the care of a nanny or something. Like they were just there for the day is what you feeling you got. They would get in some adventure, try sneaking out. They would always open the door to this closet. And then like there would be like stormtroopers firing lasers or it was always random and funny and hilarious. And I just thought Muppet Babies was brilliant. There was another show on the USA Network called Suits about lawyers. So this TV show starred one Meghan Markle, Duchess of Sussex now. But she got her start for me was on a show called Suits about a law firm and about like a gifted kid who kind of fakes his law readiness. Like he hasn't been to law school, but he kind of fakes it. And he's like a savant at it almost, and it just follows this law firm through this story. But it's, it's sort of just smarmy drama. Like one of the inside jokes of the whole show is that there's I don't know how many shows in a row, how many episodes in a row, a character says, "What the H did you just say to me?" Except they don't say H. But literally that line is in like over half the episodes. "What the H did you just say to me?" Like all indignant like.
So I get this show confused with Burn Notice because they
That's
were
reasonable.
on like back
Yeah.
to back. But I'm like, so which one of these shows had Bruce Campbell? It was not that one. It was Burn Notice.
There was a while there that USA Network had our attention, my wife and I, and we watched Suits. We also watched a show called Royal Pains about a doctor in the Hamptons.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous, but we were into medical dramas at the time. We were looking for anything to fill our house vacancy, and I mean
Yeah.
the show House after it ended, because it was great. Jerry Springer. You got to bring up Jerry Springer, because anyone that says doesn't admit to that they would sit down and watch Jerry Springer when they happened across it in the late 80s, early 90s is lying.
I watched Maury.
Oh no. Well, so Maury came after Jerry.
Yeah.
Jerry was he blazed the trail of people fighting. I will never forget watching the episode where he had the Klan on, the Ku Klux Klan, and it just results in this just ginormous brawl where a chair gets thrown and hits Jerry in the face, breaks his nose. I think that was Jerry, or was that Maury?
This is your story.
It all runs together. It all runs together, but it is definitely a guilty pleasure.
A young Cody would also throw in, just because the babysitter had it on, and I did get engrossed into the storyline, Days of Our Lives, because Stefano had died, but then he came back. And I was like, what?
Yeah, I'm not ashamed to admit it. There was a summer I watched the nerd out of some Days of Our Lives. The
Yeah.
summer I graduated or didn't graduate. If you know
What year was that?
1994. Oh, it was in the heart of the Marlena's Possessed
So,
storyline.
like, off and on from like 94 to maybe 97 during the summers, Cody gets his run of Days of Our Lives.
Hey, one of my most beloved meeting a celebrity moments is when I meet Abe, the guy that played Abe from Days of Our Lives. I was so excited. So giddy. Very kind dude. Very nice.
Oh,
He's
Abe.
he's like in charge of some theater thing or the Actors Guild or something in LA now.
Way to go,
He's like
Abe.
a big deal. Yeah. I don't know.
you
I don't even know his
met
real name. The last thing I thought of was there for a while during its run on HBO, I was really into Entourage. And that show it's like you look at it, it's not a great show. In the writings, like it's supposed to be sort of a tongue-in-cheek retelling of Mark Wahlberg's. So he's the producer of his like coming up in Hollywood. So it's supposed to be about like him and his boys. But it's sort of like it's glamorized and it's so awful, but some of the performances in it are what carried it. And by performances, I mean Jeremy Piven as Ari Gold was absolute comedic gold in that show.
There was a while that was everywhere, though.
Yeah, it was a big deal, but people didn't like to admit to it because it's not like high class Hollywood stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's the lowest common denominator type thing. It's the low hanging fruit. But I'd be lying if I say I wasn't into it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot.
Would Blue Collar Comedy Tour be...
Well, not around these parts.
Not around these parts.
That wouldn't be a guilty pleasure around here.
But like, I wouldn't admit to it, like, anywhere. Like, even with friends that I knew watched it. But there's some jokes that I remember and I will chuckle at if I hear it and I'm not like super reserved at the time.
Let's go through movies. What do you think? Do you have a list? How many do you have?
So like movies was tough for me because I'm pretty open about movies. If I like it, I'll admit to it.
Yeah.
So like it didn't fit within my guilty pleasure like definition. So
Yeah, TV definitely works better for this genre, but I came up with a few. One of them was the 2005 film Sahara, which I think was supposed to be the start of Matthew McConaughey's domination of Hollywood. This was supposed to be the movie that launched him into the upper A-list stratosphere, and it just doesn't work. 2005 directed by Breck Eisner. It gets a 38% on Rotten Tomatoes. And I'm just going to tell you, I love it. I think Matthew McConaughey and Steve Zahn's chemistry is on point. I think it's so good. And I'm mad. I'm mad that the movie's not good enough to spawn the sequels it deserved. Because basically, okay, so the movie is based on a book by Clive Cussler. And it's basically the hero of this guy's series of books. His name is Dirk Pitt, who Matthew McConaughey played. And he's like an underwater Indiana Jones. So basically, he works for NUMA, the National Underwater Marine Agency, which is a made-up fictional thing. But he's like the Indiana Jones of the marine world, right?
As one does.
Yeah. And it just deserved to be so much better. And it deserved like a whole series of movies. And I wanted to see. Matthew McConaughey is great because he's Matthew McConaughey. And he's just meant to play that guy. And for whatever reason, the movie just doesn't work. For 2005, this is up there. It had $160 million budget and only made 119 at the box office. So they took a $40 million bath on that. Cause I'm betting it didn't do a lot of DVD sales either. Now, full disclosure, I was a fan of the Clive Cussler novels that had Dirk Pitt in them. And so I really wanted it to work. And when you see that they had a $160 million budget, they got Matthew McConaughey, Penelope Cruz when she was coming up and starting to be big. Rainn Wilson is in it, or Rainn Wilson. I don't know how he pronounces his name.
We're going with Rain.
Okay. William H. Macy. I mean, it's got a great cast and it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work, but I loved it anyways. And I wanted more.
Okay. So I have thought of something that I would say as a guilty pleasure.
Hit me.
Basically, any Jean-Claude Van Damme or Steven Seagal movies from the late 80s into the mid 90s. But with the peak being, and this is like an out there one for that grouping, Hard to Kill, Steven Seagal.
I tried, man. I really tried to get into him. And I thought, I'm a guy. I should like this. Didn't care for him.
So like, I have memories of TBS and TNT just airing the nerd out of that when I'm a kid. And so, Steven Seagal movie marathon this Saturday. And then, you watch all these Steven Seagal movies back to back to back.
I wish I had stories to share with you like that. I couldn't get into them. I enjoyed Bloodsport, ironically. Before it was cool to do so because it was hilarious. But yeah, no, I wasn't into those. I remember what was the one that was on a ship? With the girl from Baywatch.
Yeah.
With Steven Seagal. Under Siege. Mm-hmm. I watched that one and I'm just like, man, I just can't. Don't like it.
And now I watch Steven Seagal clips just to reminisce about the good times.
My next movie come out in 1998, 29% score on Rotten Tomatoes. It's a little movie called Half Baked. Again,
as a pastor, I could see why you would be hesitant to say that.
And yeah, so I mean, it sounds like the kind of movie it is. It's about a bunch of guys who are drains on society,
who are baking goods.
Yes. This is an early appearance of Dave Chappelle.
A David Chappelle.
And even back then, even though the movie, you're watching a comedy that's not great, he kind of carries scenes because Dave Chappelle obviously has amazing comedic timing. And he's Dave Chappelle. And there are parts of the movie that are just hilarious to me. Jim Brewer, who was on Saturday Night Live, who was made to star in a movie about smoking illicit substances because he has a glassed over kind of look already. There's the scene when they're taking away Kenny to prison. Like he gets pegged for some crime he didn't commit. And they're taken away, and he's so, inebriated, we'll say. He's like, they're taking him away, and he's like, oh, have fun, Ken. Yeah. He didn't realize that like he's getting arrested and Ken's crying. And it just makes me laugh. It just makes me laugh. But yeah, it's a movie. It's not a movie I like to admit, even though when I watched it a lot, I wasn't a Christian. But I'd watch it again now, just not with my kids. It probably doesn't hold up though, is what I'm guessing. The next that I wouldn't admit to, just because of the content in it, are Kevin Smith movies.
Oh, I thought we were going to go with Dirty Dancing.
No, I never liked Dirty Dancing. That was for the ladies. The girls all like Patrick Swayze. I'm not I can respect what they did. They did a smart thing making that movie as the Movies That Made Us. Is that the name of that documentary on Netflix? They do a great episode, kind of the behind the scenes, how that movie came together. And I recommend anyone that was an 80s kid watch that because it's pretty interesting.
You can go to that camp.
Yeah, you can. But Kevin Smith, who starts off with he's like an indie darling. He's like he's in that first wave of indies that really start to make it big with a movie called Clerks, which is all in black and white and is based on his time working in a video store, in a convenience store. And when that movie comes out, this is not a lie, I'm working in a convenience store and a mom and pop video store. I literally have two jobs and I'm working at the two places of employment that the two main characters in Clerks are working at and what they're kind of poking fun at. And man, I just identified with it so much. He's Kevin Smith. If you don't know who he is, which I'm assuming most people who are listening to this know who Kevin Smith is, because he's really into pop culture. There's a ton of pop culture references in his movies, and especially comic book culture.
Is he a new guy?
Is he a what?
A new guy.
What's a new guy?
Just someone new, making it on the scene.
I don't get it.
I'm being facetious, like I had never heard of Kevin Smith.
Okay, you went over my head. But in particular, his second movie, Mallrats, I just loved. The main character in that movie is a guy named Brody who collects comics. And again, I wouldn't recommend to anyone in my church this movie. But I loved this movie so much because comic books. Listen, when this movie comes out in 1995, collecting comic books still isn't cool. Comic books aren't cool. Comic book movies aren't cool. And you're not cool. Yeah, and here's this guy who's the lead of this movie, and his character collects comics. And he's just great. I bet Scotty's into Kevin Smith, isn't he?
Oh yeah, loves Kevin Smith.
Our friend Scotty, because Scotty's into comic books.
He's met Kevin Smith.
Oh wow. But so he would know this line. But one of my favorite lines is when he's got his friend TS at the very beginning of the movie, and he's bringing him down into his basement where his comic collection is, but he calls it his vault. He's like, usual vault rules apply. Touch not lest ye be touched. I just identified with it so much.
Yeah. So I will say that Dogma is like on constant replay in my childhood on Comedy Central and along with Clerks. But I really remember Dogma just because you get like a fairly phenomenal cast looking back at it.
Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Chris Rock, Salma Hayek, Alanis Morissette,
Snape.
Yeah, I forgot he's in that too.
So, I will say that, I really do enjoy Kevin Smith, and he is a big DC guy. So big of a DC guy, he named his daughter after one of the DC villains.
That's it. That's true.
Harley
Quinn. Yeah. Weird Science, directed by John Hughes, beloved director. And his series of movies are beloved. 16 Candles, The Breakfast Club. But Weird Science was always that one kind of on the outside, on the fringes. And it's one of those movies that doesn't hold up real well today because of the subject material, because the two high school kids at the center of it, like quote unquote, create a woman with their computer. and she's like got magical powers, but is also like she's kind of like it's like a modern day genie story, right?
It is.
Yeah. I loved that movie. Anthony Michael Hall is so hilarious in that movie. You couldn't have convinced 10-year-old Dave that Anthony Michael Hall wasn't going to be a star.
And now kids will be like, who?
I think it all went wrong when he was in Edward Scissorhands as the bad guy. That's where it all went wrong for Anthony. He got buff. So he was like this really skinny, runtish guy when he was young. And then he gets buff and he plays the bad guy in Edward Scissorhands. And then you don't hear from him for a while. It's a sad story.
It is. So while you were talking, I actually thought of two.
Oh, all right. Hit me.
Okay. So, I mean, I'm not ashamed to admit this, but I do really overly enjoy Real Genius. The Val Kilmer.
Now, is that a guilty pleasure though? Because I feel like people liked that movie. It
I
wasn't a
don't-
big movie. It wasn't a huge movie.
I don't think it ages well in
Yeah.
some scenes.
A lot of 80s movies were like that, frankly.
So, like, I mean, we could say the same with Better Off Dead. It did not withhold.
Well, especially lately,
Yeah.
with a certain person who's in the movie who's in hot water now. I felt weird watching it
Yeah.
recently. We were going to do a Be Kind rewind on it, and then
Thanks
that all
a lot,
dropped.
Ricky.
And it was like, maybe not.
Yeah.
He spends his whole movie like kind of pawing on a girl too. Not
Yeah.
good.
And now iCarly and all that drama, not good. And then the second movie, and it came to my attention or back to my memory just because he was in the news for the Venice Film Festival, got a 6-minute standing ovation. Brendan Fraser's hit classic, George of the Jungle. Love that movie.
Literally, I think any of Brendan Fraser's movies before he's absent for a while would have qualified for this. Because I almost put The Mummy on my list, but The Mummy was huge when it came out. It was so huge, but it was so campy and corny, but I loved it.
I'll go even the sequel of The Mummy. I enjoyed it.
The Mummy Returns. Brendan Fraser, man, yeah, I'm just so glad to see him back.
But if you want to laugh, watch George of the Jungle.
And Encino Man was funny too, with
Yeah.
Pauly Shore. Airheads. Do you remember Airheads? Where he's in a band with Adam Sandler and Steve
yeah.
Buscemi. It's a great movie. That was on Comedy Central all the time too. back
That
in the
was.
day. That's a great movie, and I haven't watched it in a while. Now I feel like I need to. My last one, and this is the end all be all of my guilty pleasures. Roadhouse.
Roadhouse.
Patrick Swayze does make an appearance on my guilty pleasure list, and it's Roadhouse, which I think, if I'm being honest, is the ultimate guilty pleasure movie.
I thought that would be one of the ultimate quote unquote stereotypical 80s, 90s guy movies.
It kind of is. Got a 37% on Rotten Tomatoes. Critics hated it. I loved every minute of it.
Jabronis.
And I may or may not have sent angry letters to all those critics.
Someone needed to.
Oh, man. It's got Sam Elliott, who's awesome in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
As an aging Hall of Fame bouncer. Like I didn't even know that good bouncers were a thing. Like, I didn't even know bouncers were a thing. This movie comes out in 1989. I'm 13 years old, and it couldn't have been, I didn't see it in the theater or anything, but I couldn't have been older than 15 when I saw it. Just more proof that parents didn't really care what we were watching back in the day.
Is it a coincidence this comes out in 1989 and I Am Alive starting in 1989?
1989 gave us two great things, Cody and Roadhouse.
Make it 3 because Batman came out then.
Honestly, I like this subject for this show because we are pastors.
We are.
And we can say that, listen, when it comes to things like this, someone did ask me a question recently. So let's have an impromptu lobby, shall we?
Oh, hold up. I got one more just random.
Okay, go
Guilty
ahead.
pleasure.
Go ahead and hit me with it.
Okay.
While I'm looking here.
So since you've brought up his name, Pauly Shore, Son-in-Law. Oh, that movie's hilarious to me.
Yes, that's a classic.
But there's several people that really hate anything Pauly Shore.
Yeah,
and then
he's not cool to like anymore.
Oh yeah, and when you say it's a great Thanksgiving movie, people are like, "There's Thanksgiving movies."
Yeah, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and Son-in-Law. You're welcome.
A young listener from Springfield, Missouri. His name's John.
Hi, John.
He asked this question for a lobby, but it fits right here at the end of this episode. He wants to know, what are our stances on sin in movies, specifically nudity and things like that?
Okay, that's a good one.
Do you want to go first?
I can.
Go ahead.
So, I mean, each person, it's going to hit differently. And we kind of discussed a little bit of that with when Dave was talking about going back and listening to Tupac. That
Edited. I listened to the edited version.
He listened to edited, and he felt conviction about that. And so there's times that I feel conviction with some things that I'm watching. But then, like within the HBO-ness of some shows, like it doesn't bother me so much. Like I could do without. Like they could cut out some of those scenes and it wouldn't affect the overall product. Mm-hmm. And I think that it would actually enhance some of the storyline. But like I wouldn't encourage people to go out and watch such and such movie and without giving a warning of, hey, there's this content within it, especially nudity, sex scenes, those sorts of things that you definitely got to be mindful of who you are and your relationship, not only with God, but also with your significant other. If you are in a more serious relationship, that those sorts of things can alter kind of your brain pathways. That there's plenty of studies that show that pornography is not good for us.
Yeah, let's make sure there's a hard line drawn there.
Yeah,
because that's not good for anybody. Mentally, it's not good for that's something we should be talking about more that we don't talk about enough. I don't think is just how bad that is for you and for everybody involved.
Yeah, so that's not good. Like the substance use, because I think some people would throw that in the sin category. Mm-hmm. Again, that's not something that I battle with. So that's not something that I'm going to be like, oh, that instantly turned me off from a movie. But at the same token, I know that there are people that do battle with those demons that I would caution that, hey, if this is something that is more troubling for you, hey, don't watch it. Cursing, I mean, it's out and about in the world. Yeah. Every day I'm hearing it from younger and younger people. And so, although I don't appreciate it or like it, it's not a deal breaker. Mm-hmm. And so that's where I would go. Like, wherever you feel convicted, don't watch. There's like streaming, you can fast forward through anything.
I think a lot of it has to do with your exposure to certain things into your life, what your exposure level was. The way I grew up, I mean, I just don't think back in the 80s as many parents were as concerned as they are now with what their kids watch. So we just kind of were let loose and allowed to watch pretty much anything. The Holy Spirit will convict, like if you're a Christian, you know. So that's like that tugging on you that you explained, like I felt listening to the edited Tupac, where I just felt like this is really cringy. And while I still think he had talent and I enjoyed the rhythm and the musicality of it, the things he was saying, I was like, I don't like this. I don't like this. And that's because I'm not the same person I was. And as Christians, that's the goal. you want to say, hey, I'm not the same person I was. And therefore I can't enjoy some of the things I used to enjoy because I now see it as something a little different now, but it's different. Like Cody said, from person to person. The Holy Spirit will convict you of what's over the line for you. Like you said, I don't necessarily get bothered by seeing people drink alcohol or anything like that on movies and TV shows. I know some people who do. I've never really had a draw to that. And so it doesn't bother me to watch it. Although I have had friends that have had problems and it does make me think of them. But it doesn't really convict me in any certain way because I didn't have an issue with that. But yeah, there have been there's been several TV shows my wife and I have started watching that a few episodes in, we were like, no, we're going to stop. Cause we just didn't, it was too much. It was too over the line. And we're like, this isn't good to watch. And so we just did. I'm not going to go into the details of what exactly it was that tugged on our hearts, the Holy Spirit, because it doesn't mean anything. It should be different for each person, really, although we can draw some universal lines, frankly, on some of the things we mentioned earlier. But John, you'll know if your relationship with the Lord is strong and you're spending time with Him, you're gonna know what's appropriate for you and what's not.
Yeah,
and it's not for me to tell you.
Yeah, I mean, most of this is created as just entertainment. And entertainment, for the most part, is something that's a distraction from the mundane, if you will. Some people, it's a higher art form. But as a pastor, I know where my limit is with entertainment, that it can't be the ultimate. I can't exalt it higher than people. I can't exalt it higher than relationships. And I know people that become obsessed with entertainment and go way too far into it. And so even that in itself becomes an idol, becomes a sin. And so you just have to be aware of you, the Holy Spirit, and what's appropriate.
Here's
for
two things to sum it all up: personal responsibility and personal accountability. Right? The personal responsibility of okay, here's the things that draw my attention too much. Like what you were saying, I get a little too invested in it and it becomes bigger than certain other things in my life that it shouldn't be bigger than. Okay. So number one is personal responsibility and then personal accountability. Now that I know that, can I be accountable to myself?
And it also helps to have good friends.
It does. I'm glad you're my good friend, Cody.
And I'm back at you.
And I'm glad you listeners are our good friends, and we enjoy talking so much. And we do love answering questions of the pop culture variety or the pastoral variety.
This is true.
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening. And we'll see you next week.